DDG episode 89. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? It's been a busy week for you. You changed the schedules around. Busy week for me is it's a max exodus of employees at my job. It's been pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I would know what day it is today if we weren't recording.
Yeah, like we talked yesterday, like a text message being like, hey, we're recording Tuesday, and then part of me was just like, what if this man does not wake up? Like, at the time he's supposed to.
I don't know if you know this, sir. I have a 5-year-old that's on summer break, so whatever sleep I get is a bonus.
Just
although
he's
he's been really good
with the Switch, and he'll be fine.
Although he's been really, really good. So I started overnights Sunday night. So I purposely tried to stay up Saturday night, and a little later than normal, and sleep, like air quote, sleep in on Sunday so I could function. And I had a hard time sleeping on Monday. And then my neighbor decided to get his lawn like professionally mowed like 4 times, I feel like. And of course it was a nice day outside, so we had the windows open, and my bedroom is near the front of the house, so that was fun. But I slept better today. So, and then I know some of you know I've mentioned it before, but I'll be on overnights until the end of August. So until August 25th or something like that. So,
and this is week 1, so you're going to be a little. It's going to take you a while to become a full vampire, but by like week 2 or 3, you'll be in full night mode.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, if you guys are used to seeing me online playing games with you in the evenings, that probably won't happen as much. So,
xCloud at work when no one's there.
All right, we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that uploads every Thursday on the podcast services of your choice. If we're not on that service, let us know, and we'll try to see if we can get on there. Whatever service you use, if it allows you to leave a review, please do so with words. That helps. It's been a little while since we got a review, so any kind of help you guys could do with that moves us up those algorithms and the charts for when people are searching for the show or searching for video game shows in general. So that always helps. And you can also just go to our website, digitaldaysgaming.com. Check out all the links, as well as everything that I'm mentioning is in the show notes. And then don't forget, we have a Teesprings store, teesprings.com/digital-days-gaming, where you can pick up some merchandise. Right now it's just hoodies and t-shirts, but if there's some other stuff that you'd like to see us have on there, let us know, and we'll see if we can make that happen. All right, we're going to jump into the news. So we got a couple things to talk about, but nothing crazy.
Yeah, a few random things. A lot of things kind of just spawned from the state of play that took place last Thursday, so I figured we'd talk about that at the top of the show. The state of play PlayStation did, it was third parties and indie games, so they set the expectations. We weren't expecting anything crazy, though there's still rumors on if Sony needs to do another event, and if that event is going to be a first-party exclusive event. There's still rumors that is going to take place August, though those rumors said July, and then this happened, so now they're August, so things are just being pushed back. Eventually, they're going to keep saying it until it happens, because, eventually Sony's going to do a first-party thing, and it's just a matter if those rumors happen to align with that. To me, this wasn't, like, a very eventful state of play. Obviously, they announced beforehand it was going to be anchored by Deathloop gameplay, and they delivered that, and I thought Deathloop had a good showing. But the first major announcement from it was Moss Book 2 is coming, though there's no release date on it. It looks great. Moss was a great PSVR game. There's no release date, which leads to speculation of will this be like a launch PSVR 2 game, or will this just be PSVR? I think the developers have hinted that it's just PSVR, like the current iteration.
Right.
But
I'm actually a little irritated about this, not irritated, like I'm happy that, like, I was like, oh cool, Moss, and I was like, and they're starting the show with it, great, and then it's like, oh, it's in development. Well, duh. It's like we've kind of known that it's been in development since it, like, the first one ended as like a chapter or a book, like it's always been hinted at, and I'm like, okay, it's been a long time since Moss came out. Like, I had to go back and look at the exact date, which I wanted to do, but so I was just kind of like, like, I was one of those things where, again, I'm not blaming Sony. Obviously, development and COVID is hard, but it's one of those things where, like, that could have been a surprise thing. Like, it comes out next week or next month.
Yeah,
like,
but it's hard to put on Polyarc to expect them to do that. We don't know what, like, COVID did, but yeah, no, like, I believe they talked about this with. I think it was kind of funny. They talked with, like, Greg Miller back in, like, 2019 about, like, hinting at a possible, like, book 2 so it's definitely been in development for a while. But no release date leads me to believe that it, like, well, maybe next year. But I don't think this is going to slip to PSVR 2 because I still think we're a couple years away from PSVR 2.
Yeah, February 27th, 2018 is when Moss came out.
And I think the kind of funny interview was in 2019. So
right. And now we're going to, like you're saying, probably best case, honestly, is 2022. So February 2022 is like, yeah, 4.
Yeah, okay.
4 full years.
I didn't know if you wanted me to fill that in for you.
Yeah, no, I was just making sure, how you do that. Oh, it's only really 3, but it's 4 full years. And again, like it's a VR game. I'm sure it's hard to develop, but I mean, like we've talked about before, they kind of have the core systems and foundation for this in place. And, for it to be almost 3.5 years to say, hey, it's a thing, was a little off-putting to me. Like I love the fact I love Moss. It's probably the best game to play on PSVR, in my opinion. But I'm happy that we're getting a second one. But I'm kind of like, wow. Like, I mean, if they get it out in the next 6 months from announcement, like, great, good for them. But like, it's just kind of one of those things where I thought it would just be a little farther along. But I also don't know if they've done anything since Moss. So.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I'm not too sure what they've done since. But yeah, at least it's coming. Right. And PSVR will continue to live on for a little longer. This will probably come out before PSVR 2 comes out because I think that's years away.
At this track record, PSVR 2 is like 2023.
Yeah. The next new announcement was Ilphonic's latest game, Arcadegeddon, which I think is a bad name, but the game looks like it could be pretty fun. I know it's in early access on PS5 currently, so you can go check that out. I've been meaning to check it out. I just haven't really.
Does this cost money?
PS5. No, I believe it's going to be a free-to-play sort of thing.
Okay, because I thought it cost because I was like, as soon as I saw it, I was gonna download it and check it out, but then I mean, if it's gonna cost, and again, I'm not saying it is a bad thing. If it's gonna cost money, it just might be something I might need to wait until like maybe a weekend when I'm not working weird hours or whatever.
Actually, let me see what it is because the website loads pretty fast.
So this is the company that made
$20.
Predator. Okay,
yes,
20's not
$20.
bad. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the non-early access will cost more, probably like maybe like 40 or 50 if I had to guess.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure that they'll give some caveat probably just to the early access people, like, oh, you can upgrade for 10 or something,
Yeah. This game looks. This game both look kind of fun and kind of generic for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like a kind of. It's a follow-up that makes sense coming off Predator, of just like how fast the turnaround time is for this game to come out, and it's coming out in early access, so it's just going to be a matter of them reiterating. But there's nothing that I saw in the trailer that I'm like, this game is going to have legs. So right. I hope there's a hook there.
But I think going the early access route is a really good idea. I mean, similar to kind of, I guess, what Dreams did and what games do on Steam all the time of like, okay, like start playing it. Let's start getting some data. Let's start getting some feedback. Let's start seeing what people actually are doing. And then let's start adjusting to when we do a real launch, like we're ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, exactly. It at least gives them time to adjust and make changes. I don't know if that first trailer, and I think I'm just put off by the name too. Arcadegeddon is not like a great name. That feels like a placeholder name that they're just like, all right, let's just roll with it because we're going into early access.
Right.
But it definitely could be fun. There's a couple other games. There's nothing really that popped out to me. We did get another new trailer for Sifu, which we'll talk about a little later. Mm-hmm. We got to see a little bit more of Jet the Far Shore, which it's like the exploration sort of game. That was interesting. We got a Lost Judgement trailer. We got a Death Stranding Director's Cut trailer. So Death Stranding Director's Cut is going to have new missions, new equipment, and it's actually going to have the like costume DLC that was in the PC version of Death Stranding. My favorite thing though is Kojima is not a fan of it being called a director's edition. Kojima is
because he's the director and he's not messing with it probably.
Well, no, it's just he's a huge movie buff, so he was just like, hey, director's cut usually means there was content, there was a disagreement between the studio and the director, so then the director comes in there and then does extra scenes or does a re-edit, and he's like, that's not the case here. But it definitely does seem like that is, to me, it makes sense from a current Sony leadership perspective of like why they want to put director's cut as a label. to move away from the greatest hits
Right.
label. Sony's trying to be like one company. They're also a huge movie company, so director's cut probably came from that side of the company. But it's just funny that their second director's cut, Ghost being the first, is going to be having the director of the game being like, it's really stupid we're calling it a director's cut. But I'm guessing this is going to be the thing that Sony labels their games. We'll probably get The Last of Us Part 2 director's cut
I
next.
think I said something on Twitter like the other day, like, is director's cut their new phrasing for game of the year, game of the year edition or whatever. And it's not a bad thing. It's just kind of one of those things where it was more like it was more clear when it was game of the year edition or complete edition. Like, I mean, even like off topic a little bit, but like Witcher 3 is now bringing out like a PS5 version, and like I don't know how many different technical SKUs Witcher 3 has had on just PlayStations alone, in terms of like what they're doing. And I could definitely see it be like, confusing to the customer, but like with Death Stranding, the trailer showed a lot of things that the game never really interested me, because I'm not a huge Kojima fan, and it also just looked kind of bland and boring. But the stuff that they're showing in the trailer, like the jetpacks or the jump ramps for the bike and stuff like that, like those are things that I'm like, like those are some of the things I was annoyed with. Like, I don't want to make a zip line across this thing or figure out how to walk down this terrain and go back up this other terrain. Now I can maybe have the ability to just jump a canyon. So,
they're definitely trying some new things with this thing, this director's cut. It's just weird when you see like a brand trying to like create a new thing. I understand staying away from like Game of the Year edition, just because even games that never won a Game of the Year edition would put out a Game of the Year edition, and then greatest hits always was tied to a specific like sales threshold.
Price point.
Like you would only be able to charge $20 for greatest hit, and to be a greatest hit, you had to sell a certain amount of millions of copies of games or be a cult classic, that sort of thing. So them going director's cut is a way to probably justify getting that $70.
Well, and they're actually adding content. Usually it's just like adding additional content. Previous stuff has always been kind of just all the content bundled together, and like at least with this, you said new missions and new other new things to do. And then with Ghosts, which we briefly talked about, but apparently you're getting a whole nother island with Ghost.
Yeah, you're getting a whole other island, and
Ghost
that's
of Tsushima.
And that's why the upgrade for Ghost is significantly more than the upgrade for Death Stranding. Right. Death Stranding's upgrade is like $10. Ghost is $30. But it definitely seems like the director's cut is so they can put out a PS5 package at $70, and then people will be like, director's cut means what it should mean, in terms of what people think about with movies.
But even somebody like me, I haven't played Ghost on PS4. And I own PS5 obviously. So if I get around to playing Ghost, like I'm just gonna buy the PS5 version.
Yeah, yeah.
So is the director's cut for Death Stranding coming to PS4 at all?
No, I thought it's just like some sort of like $10 upgrade. No, actually, I hate.
But I mean, if you're a PS4 owner, do you have access to this content at all?
Let me just look that up real quick.
Because I think that the Ghost stuff you get access to. The director's cut's coming to PS4 as well.
Yeah. You just get like the PS5 upgrades that were actually already patched into the game, pretty much. I'd have to look that up, but I'm not.
Because that's weird. Like, I mean, like that would be a little weird in terms of like the stand that Sony has taken the last year or so on cross generational play. You can play God of War Ragnarok on PS4 or PS5. You can play Horizon 2 on PS4 or PS5. But that Death Stranding director's cut, you can't play it on PS4. That's a little weird.
Yeah.
But I'm probably wrong. So.
Yeah,
the internet will tell me.
Everything that I'm looking up, it says like you can upgrade your PS4 copy to the PS5 director's cut, but nothing that I can see with a quick Google search says that there's a PS4 director's cut.
Okay.
But yeah, and then of course it ended with Deathloop, which is it looked great. Like Deathloop, I feel like we've seen a ton of Deathloop now, and they,
I like to actually see some mission structure though a little bit.
Yeah, I did like though that they answered our question that we had last week of just like of how the multiplayer works. You know, it's like you can opt in to have someone be able to jump in your game and play that other character, or it could be just completely single player. So they went into that, and then they showed some of the cool abilities. Game looks good. I just kind of need this game to be out and for me to play it.
Yeah.
I don't want another gameplay thing for this. I think I've seen enough of it, and I'm interested. And the more they show of it, the less likely I'm gonna be like, well, I saw a lot of this game already.
At this point, I just want, like, the only thing that I still want to see for Deathloop is how the loop works a little bit, because they hinted at it like, oh, we're a couple hours into the story. When they showed whatever they were doing with the assassination mission you were doing this time. And I was like, that leads me to believe that based on that structure that there may be checkpoints in this game.
I think there will be checkpoints.
Yeah. So like, that's the part that I would that's my lingering question of, you know, like, if you die during that mission, you just go back and start the mission again. Okay, that's different. And then you adjust to what happened there. You know, but yeah, I think it's cool that you can be assassinated, but I also think it's kind of cool that you can say, you know what, hey, let me fight an AI person, because what's going to happen eventually is that, you know, like, the terrifying part is that people will play this game, they'll learn it really well, like somebody will play it in complete Deathloop in a weekend, it'll happen. They'll mess around with it, and then they'll go and you know, you guys know me, I don't cuss that much, but then they'll spend the rest of the week going, you know what, I'm gonna go fuck with people, and they're gonna go ruin their games. Like, they're gonna go ruin their games.
It happened with, like, Demon Souls, Dark Souls. You open yourself up to all sorts of hell. Yeah,
like, I could see that being something that, like, maybe somebody like me, like, all right, let me check it out like once or twice, and then I get, like, something stupid happens to me, like, if somebody has like snipes me from like 300 yards across the map or something like that. I'm like, you know what? I'm turning this off. Like, and 90% of the player base will just turn it off. So it's like,
I'm just glad there's the option. You know, it's not like an always online sort of situation to where you can't toggle that on and off. So I'm happy about that. I will probably turn that off for my first playthrough of the game, and then maybe my second or third playthrough, if that game's that addicting or has that gameplay loop, then I'll turn that on and kind of give myself a challenge. But that was a state of play. Pretty fast state of play. Again,
pretty bland state of play.
Yeah,
it felt very bland to me. So just because it's not my genre of games that they showed a lot of. Like, that's
even for me, it wasn't like those are my genres of game, my types of games I like playing, but it still didn't do much for me at all. But we'll hopefully get this one in August. We still have EA Play next week, I think. Next week is EA Play?
Yeah,
July 22nd? Yeah. So we have...
They have an amazing opportunity right now. EA has an amazing opportunity to take control of this summer. With some very... it's crazy to think, like, 2 years ago, EA was kind of like, whatever, EA is going to show more, you know, more FIFA. And, like, over time, they've built a substantial library, like, to where, like, I'm actually like, hey, like, I want to hear what they have to say. Like, what is Respawn doing? They just renamed that LA Dice studio. You know, like, so they're definitely putting some blocks in place to have a really good EA Play.
Yeah, I didn't put it in the news, but the EA studio getting a name, I don't think people realize that that's kind of a big deal. That means that the studio has, like, a stability to it now.
Yeah, and they're making a game.
Yeah, they're making a game.
They're not just helping somebody, you know.
But even if they were making a game as Dice LA, that to me tells me that, like, we're not serious about this game. This game can get canceled at any time. But now the studio has a name, it has an identity. That game is likely closer to happening.
The other part that I thought was funny over the week, did you hear, like, the number of people that Respawn has working on Titanfall, helping Titanfall?
Apex?
No, Titanfall, because, like, Titanfall's been having some hacker problems, and, like, Respawn had to come out and go, hey, guys, like, you know, we got DDoS, we're doing the best we can, and people are like, well, what's going on? And they're like, well, full disclosure, we have 4 people assigned to Titanfall. Like,
and now we have to call people in on July 4th. Like,
so they were just like, they came out and kudos to them, and they said, hey, like, we understand that you're playing it. We love the fact that you're playing it, but, you know, like, we have less than a skeleton crew working, like, keeping this game up. Like, and at that point, it's a self-sufficient game. I mean,
and then they kind of had to come out and just be like, hey, we understand that like some fans think they're telling us that they care about Titanfall by DDoS attacking the thing, but like, fuck you, now we have to work the holidays, basically.
Yeah.
Because apparently it was fans that were attacking Titanfall and taking it offline, because of course someone would say they're a fan and do that.
Yep, and those are the same people that are going to spawn into Deathloop and kill you.
Yeah, most likely. But yeah, EA has a real opportunity. Like they have like the Unravel studio they work with, the It Takes Two studio they work with. We know we'll see maybe something for Dead Space.
Allegedly,
then,
I mean more content for Apex.
More content for Apex, and then we'll probably see maybe Skate, something with Skate. It would seem weird if we didn't hear anything of that. So
more Battlefield, more like like what they're doing with Codemasters. Hopefully, there's a lot.
Find out if there's anything that remains of their Star Wars deal, and then
I think
random stuff.
Fallen Order 2. It's a good time to announce Fallen Order 2, right? Mm-hmm. You're getting some really good. Yeah, you're getting some really good legs from next gen upgrades for Fallen Order. The Star Wars fans are, obviously as the movies are distancing out, are looking for more content, and people are like, hey, this is really cool. So there's definitely some good vibes going on for the. Good vibes in general for EA and Respawn. I mean, Respawn first and then EA. But, it's crazy to think that, like FIFA's not their story right now. Madden's not their story. Yeah,
and just the fact that, like, they probably need to get the Respawn Star Wars game Fallen Order out of the way sooner than later, because we have all these all these like Ubisoft games coming out in the Star Wars universe, and like all the other partnerships Disney is signing with Star Wars. So you have to imagine that like EA has an invested interest to like get Fallen Order out before all those games start going out and the market's saturated. Yep. Because once Ubisoft is ready with their Star Wars game, they're not going to coordinate with EA and like figure out when to release their game. So EA has a chance, you're right, to like take over the summer. Next news story, which was a little crazy of his news story, but then like I thought about it and it kind of makes sense. Lost Judgement sequel might not. So there's a Lost Judgment 2 coming out this fall. Lost Judgment has been pitched as like another branch of the Yakuza series, like a franchise on its own. But the sequel might actually be the last for Lost Judgment, because according to some Japanese outlets, there's a dispute with Sega and a talent agency that represents Takuya Kimura, who's the main protagonist, or the actor of the main character in Lost Judgment. They are blocking the game from coming to Steam. And Sega, over the last couple years, have discovered that, like, Steam games sell. Like, putting your content out on PC is good for business, so that's why the Yakuza games have been going out there. That's why we saw, like, Persona start to hit PC. I mean, it was Persona 4 Golden, but, like, they saw that, like, hey, there's people willing to buy our games on PC, and it's good money. And Lost Judgment has been the holdout, and it turns out that holdout is the player, or the main character's likeness being owned by this talent agency. The talent agency's excuse is they do not like the idea that PC is an open system, and their actor's likeness can be manipulated and a character model can have all sorts of things done to it. So basically they're afraid of what happens when you put something on PC and what fans or crazy people will do to like assets.
Yeah, because that's going to diminish the actor's ability to do something. Or like,
yeah.
I get where they're coming from. They're afraid of mods, but at the same time, like, this agency has to be getting a cut of these game sales for one, for them to allegedly have this much power. They definitely have to be getting some kind of financial kickback for it.
For sure.
And two, like, they would probably miss out on a huge amount of money. But we've also seen issues with Western studios, Eastern, like, Asian studios, that because didn't they remove somebody, like a voice actor?
Yeah, it was this game because one of the actors was busted for, like, had a drug bust.
Right, did something inappropriate in public.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which in the U.S. isn't that big a deal.
Right.
But in Japan it was, so they removed that actor. Like they delayed the game for like a couple weeks, and then they patched out the voice actor. The agency also probably has seen some of the stuff that happened. There was like some issues with Keanu Reeves's character model when Cyberpunk came out, to where CD Projekt Red had to come out and say like, please guys, stop this. And I believe they released some patches to stop it. There was the Elliot Page stuff back with Beyond Two Souls, where they didn't know that there was
Yeah, I mean, does Sega not have the ability to protect this player's image?
No, I mean, once you put a game out on PC, it's just why there's so much Overwatch porn. And there's like once a game gets out there, people will get to the assets and then use the character models for mostly porn, and some weird like FMV videos or whatever. But yeah, I guess they're more worried about that, especially when it's the actual actor's likeness. Like it happened to Keanu Reeves and Elliot Page, but they're also big enough names that it wouldn't faze them too much, and this actor might be thinking like they're not established enough to
take that kind of image hit.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess this will probably lead to either this franchise going away or they spin it off again. But it's two games into it, so I don't know how attached people are to this to the main character, Yagami. I believe Curry Master put his name in there. So I don't know how attached they are to this character, to where if this agency needs to be careful though, because Sega could be like, all right, well, we got to start thinking about the future, and at the end, I don't know enough of the series, but at the end of this third game, they could introduce a new character, and like you said, like the next one could just be his story. Yeah, and they can also just be like, we're never going to work with this agency again, because they want either too much of a cut or they're worried about this, and it, or they have to put in a contract like, hey, do not use the actual actor's likeness in this game. Right. Make a different character model for the actor. So yeah, it definitely puts Sega in a weird spot, especially as Sega's been gaining momentum in terms of releasing stuff on PC. It sounds like this franchise won't hit PC.
Yeah, I mean, Sega's been gaining momentum as a actual software publisher after like 20 years.
Yeah. Well, they go through these phases where they're like up and down, and they finally started to hit a momentum again recently. And then this is going to be just another thing. Like, they got all the Yakuza games out on PC and Xbox and PlayStation all at the same time, which is like a crazy accomplishment. And now Lost Judgement, they're trying to port that over, and they can't. So they might just consider Lost Judgement like a dead franchise at that point, of just
which
like, all right.
Sucks. Like that's, because like there's been a lot of people that really like this. So
yeah. And most likely what will fix this is a large
money.
Like a lot of money. But Sega's really not in a position to where they can drop a boatload of money onto this agency and be like, don't worry about it. But the only thing they could probably do is give points on like per sale thing to the agency, but that would probably defeat the purpose of them even releasing it on PC. All right. Let's talk about the story that Jason Schreier broke, but then Ubisoft basically confirmed without actually giving us much details. Assassin's Creed Infinity has been kind of announced, or it has been announced, but Ubisoft confirmed the Jason Schreier report, or at least the first part, that Assassin's Creed is going live service. And Ubisoft only said that like Assassin's Creed Infinity is a thing, and that it is going to be a multi-studio endeavor, and it's going to be the future of the franchise. The details Jason Schreier added was it's going to be an expanding, growing game, a live service game that expands and contains multiple periods of time. So previously Assassin's Creed games just focus on one time period. This sounds like they will just constantly add to it. So we'll probably get multiple protagonists, or it's going to go the route to where you make your own assassin and then go through all these time periods. This kind of makes sense based on what Ubisoft had previously said a couple months ago, that they are going like the free-to-play route, or trying to find a balance between AAA and free-to-play. So this is what they're gonna do, and I don't like it, Dave. Like, it makes sense financially and business wise, but I don't like it.
So I think that I understand your aspect from it. But to be truthful, I feel like Assassin's Creed games have almost kind of been games as a service as they've been adding seasonal or DLC content to them over time. And then to possibly have, like, again, like we talked about earlier, like the foundation of like, this is Assassin's Creed Infinity. This is the game that you need. And then here's where we're going to keep going with it. Like that, that might be a better route to go than an annualizing the franchise, which we already got crazy fatigue from that. If this is a replacement like of the Assassin's Creed franchise going forward, that's a little bit concerning. Like if we're not going to get, like a whatever their version of like a standalone single player, game line, like where I don't know, where like maybe they come to the United States and do a historical thing again, like they did with the Revolutionary War. Maybe they do something again. I don't know what they would do. Like I'm just saying that, or they come to Canada and they delve deep into like Northern Canada history or something like that, which has always been fascinating when Ubisoft does that with their Assassin's Creed games. Like they're almost like a history lesson style stuff for like the amount of focus they've put on like Egyptian culture and stuff like that has been fascinating.
Yeah, they've never done South America either.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff there, but.
So in terms of if this replaces that completely, like, yeah, that'll suck. But if this is just something that they're using the Assassin's Creed name, which carries a significant amount of weight in the gaming world, to try to make a games as a service, I'm okay with it. It's obviously it's got to be handled right. I don't know if previous Ubisoft's corporation is the right people to handle it because they haven't handled Division very well. In terms of who's making the decisions or who's not making the decisions on what does or doesn't happen with continuous content. But I think that, there may be a place for this. It all comes down to cost and stuff like that. The biggest problem I have with this right now is that I love Jason Schreier. I love his work. I love what he does. He needs to stop announcing video games.
Yeah, and it's something that he always talks about of this, like. I mean,
I get he's got a job.
Yeah.
But he forced Ubisoft to respond, which sucks.
Yeah.
Which takes away their moment. That's who's ever doing it, studio's moment.
So I don't mind when he spoils an announcement for a game when it can tie back to like a story. Basically, like a ongoing thing. The Ubisoft one, I can understand the pitch being like, hey, so Ubisoft's going to do this thing where they're going to kind of get away from creative directors and just kind of turn Assassin's Creed into this like ever-evolving blog.
Yeah, I guess to your point, you're right. Like if he was doing a deep dive into Assassin's Creed upper management changes due to all the harassment issues and everything they've had, and then he discovers this game while doing that, I think that's a little different versus him. Somebody told him this, and he wrote a story about it. And the only reason he wrote a story about it is because someone told him it's a live service game.
Yeah, and specifically why I think he could tie this into the whole Ubisoft management thing is because this is turning into such a gigantic thing to where we won't even know who the creative director is. It's probably because they've gone through so many creative directors recently that this is what he thought would be like a good story. So because he's been covering Ubisoft so much, I'm okay with it, but I do agree with you. Like this is kind of a thing with a lot of people that like leak and stuff that sometimes it could be a little frustrating when they just kind of do a post that announces it.
He essentially has now, in the last 6 months, has announced Last of Us Remastered and Assassin's Creed Infinity, the two things off the top of my head already. Like, he's the one that's broken the story.
Yeah, which...
And I get that he's amazing at his job. And he's got tons and tons of reliable sources. It's just, it sucks for the game studios, that's all.
Yeah. But as long as he's at least good at tying it into like the previous stuff that's been going around, and the Bloomberg article does tie into that in terms of like, yeah, they've lost a lot of creative directors, so now it's just going to be like this big gigantic thing because every time they prop up a creative director, someone knocks that creative director down by finding out some horrible stuff about them. So it definitely can be frustrating, but I feel like as long as he's tying it to something, I'm fine with it. And as long as it's not like Bloomberg with the Nintendo 4K thing where they hyped everyone up and then it turned out to be something different. But yeah, I don't know. I specifically with the Infinity, hope that's a placeholder name. I have a real problem with that. But I don't think that's what people want from Assassin's Creed, like a live service game. I understand from a business standpoint, build the foundation, and then it's basically expansion packs on top of that. And I think
I disagree, Michael. Like, obviously people are buying like the gold editions of these games of Odyssey and Origins and
but they're
Valhalla,
still single
and
player games. Like if this is a live service game, I'm sure.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, what if it's a live service single player game, like where it's just like
do that? Because
what if
at?
The same way they do it now with like with customizing your armor and your weapons and colors and paints and skins.
Yeah, but if you're going to do live service, you're going to have some sort of connectivity, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, like, it'll still be an online game, but I don't think it's going to be like a player versus player game. Like, I think it's going to be
I think it's going to be a PvE game.
They're going to it's going to be a Destiny style thing, where 3 or 4 of you are working together.
Yeah, they're going to basically do Assassin's Creed Unity, but you're going to be playing all of those characters.
Yeah, but you can also, like, even
in
in Destiny, you can have a good time playing essentially the multiplayer stuff by yourself. 80% of the game.
For the most part, but like in terms of like, I don't want like an Assassin's Creed game built around events. In terms of like, hey, we're doing this.
I don't want it if it's in replacement of what we've seen over the last 10 years. Like,
that's my concern.
I don't want that. Like, because I know there are tons of people that are fans of this franchise and fans of this, of that stuff, and they want to see the rest of the stories continue to be told and how they tie in. And like you and I are on the same page for that. I don't think this will be a complete replacement. I think if they call it Assassin's Creed Infinity, it's going to live on its own plane, and then you're still going to get Assassin's Creed something in 2 years, 3 years.
So I feel like it's going to be either or, just because of what they told investors a couple months ago, and the idea, unless they're using Infinity to build towards it, kind of like how Disney builds TV shows towards movies, then yeah, I could totally see that going. But like, if they just turn this into like a Grand Theft Auto clone or Fortnite clone for Assassin's Creed, that's where my concerns are. The only problem is they weren't ready to announce this, so we have no details. All we can do is speculate. And get, in my case, get a little scared about what this means to the future of it. But it also now totally makes sense why they were doing 2 years of DLC for Valhalla now, because they're like going to do something big, and it's going to be this in the future. So 2 years of Valhalla.
For the record, I think it'd be cool for you to have your assassin and have your assassin go to different parts of the world. Like, your character.
But my problem with that is, when you think of Assassin's Creed, you think of Ezio, you think of Balak, you think of like these iconic Assassin's characters, and if you take them away, then it's just generic guy that you custom build. I think it loses something.
I don't know enough about the story, but can't they just keep sticking you in that machine and keep having you like reincarnate different people?
They could, but I would hope they would have you reincarnate into the iconic characters, as opposed to being like, oh, here's Assassin MJC. You know, like I feel like then at that point, what are you doing other than slapping Assassin's Creed on some games as a service? Because I mean, yeah, Assassin's Creed is a very marketable thing. Like,
no, I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but like the iconic characters, like what I would like is if they're like, hey, here's Assassin's Creed Infinity. Year 1, Ezio. Year 2, Altair. Year 3, Balak, and you jump from character to character for expansions.
Yeah, maybe you make your current day character, like you're human, and then you're going into the machine, and you're like, okay, you're going to go be Ezio in this year and do this.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be more interesting to me, and then you can have me customize my stupid real time or current day character. And then you're just jumping in to learn.
And then I guess as crazy as it would sound, dabble some current day stuff in there too, like at the end of each season of like you doing something as your current day character.
Yeah, give a hook, and then you can do your player connected game, your life or service thing in current day. But let the structure be that I go back to like these iconic characters, or do something with them, or give me a bunch of new ones. It definitely can give the opportunity for them to explore different parts of the world that they didn't want to build whole games around. which we always hear sometimes about, like, oh, they wanted to do China, but instead we just got that side-scrolling game. Or they wanted to do Russia, and all we got was a side-scrolling game. They can maybe flesh out some of those, like, settings, but not in a full-blown 100-hour Assassin's Creed game.
Going, like the female character that got her time to shine on Vita. Yeah, I think it came to PS3 eventually, but it'd be cool to, like, revisit her.
Yeah,
I can't think of her name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't either. But getting the Liberation character, would be a good idea. Or Altair, I feel like, Altair set the standard. He only had one game. He was kind of boring. I always wanted him to be fleshed out. So you can do some cool stuff with the previously established characters if you want to go an expansion route.
Yeah, and like Zesty put in chat, like Assassin's Creed have been improving and innovating their games so the better have a little faith. They've been doing that as linear single-player titles.
Yeah. And so now
we've determined that games as a service is very hard. Just ask Avengers.
Yeah, just ask any game that looked at Destiny and was like, we could do that, and then they just couldn't.
Ask BioWare. Ask Massive for Division. Ask
ask
Square Enix
Gearbox
for Avengers. Yeah,
for
Borderlands. Battleborn.
Yeah,
I like it's hard to hit even an acceptable stride, let alone a successful stride.
And this is one of those things, if this is going to be a big live for service game, it's going to take years to build up, which means they'll have to take a break from, like, releasing yearly Assassin's Creed or biannual Assassin's
and then, like,
Creed
to your point, is the fans of the franchise. So, like, some of the Assassin's Creed story stuff appeals to you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It never really appealed to me that much. The games as a service appeals to me, but doesn't appeal to you. But you're a fan of Assassin's Creed, and I can be a fan of a games as a service done right. Those are two different crowds of, like, where somebody's like, I don't really know anything about Assassin's Creed, or I love Assassin's Creed, but F that game as a service, I'm not buying it.
And in that scenario, it's very easy to lose me, a fan of Assassin's Creed, and it's very hard to gain you as a fan of a good live service game.
To gain me continuously.
Yeah.
Like, I might try it and be like, I'm done.
Yeah. So they there's a chance that they lose both sides of that audience they're trying to bring together. So it's very risky. And then my concern is they put a lot of effort into this. It takes years to build, and then it fails, and then it's going to take years for them to break it down.
To recover. Oh, we're going back to single player mode. The next Assassin's Creed will be 2030. Like, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
like,
so I would hope that they, like, as you say, like, have, like, a standard Assassin's Creed game in between things.
Correct.
Because
and then you could actually take those characters and put them in your service game. Like,
yeah, basically it's Marvel using WandaVision to build to Doctor Strange in the multiverse. You want that, but it's going to be tough to pull off. So we'll see. And then we'll find out in, like, a month or two when Ubisoft's ready to talk about it, being like, yeah, it's just called Infinity. It's a single player game. Why are you guys freaking out?
Right.
So I guess we'll see what happens there. That is it for the news. I was going to talk about how retro games are selling for millions of dollars because people are stupid, but I don't want to anger myself.
All right. So, returning of a segment that we haven't had for a couple weeks. So, what's delayed?
Yeah, we got two games. We have Saifu, which was in a state of play. It's been delayed to 2022. The studio is very upfront in terms of just like, hey, we're an indie game. We only have one opportunity to impress you. So we're just going to move it to 2022 and get it where we want it.
And they kind of played it off really cool with the way the mechanic works in the game. Like, yeah. Where, like, hey, it's just going to get better as we age. Like,
yeah, exactly, yeah. So perfect way to handle it. And then the least surprising...
I'm flabbergasted. Like, I mean, it's almost August and we don't have a date for this game, and you're telling me it's not coming this year? Like, I'm just pissed off.
But, like, we talked about this during our Patreon episode last month. Ghostwire Tokyo has been delayed to 2022, early 2022. It never really had an official date, but Sony, in their marketing and their YouTube videos, had it slated for an October release this year. But Ghostwire Tokyo, early 2022... they basically just came out of this. They're looking for the health of their employees, and they don't want to have to. I guess maybe it's like COVID related or crunch related that they just want to take the extra time and polish up the game. Totally understandable. But it took a long time to get here based off like just like the very
they knew this game wasn't coming in 2022 like 6 months ago.
Yeah, no, not exactly. And like Sony never outright said when this game was coming out, but they did put it in a couple trailers, October, in like fine print. So this is delayed. I'm fine with it. I know Ghostwire Tokyo's had kind of a difficult development cycle. I mean, they lost their creative director like 2 years ago. Like she went over to just go independent, I believe. So they. And then, of course, you know, Xbox bought Bethesda, so I'm sure that changed things up just a little bit for them. So I'm fine with this delay because when we did the June Patreon episode and we looked at the rest of the year coming out, I have no
full.
idea. Yeah.
Like, it would be sent out to die. Like,
yeah. Even if this game was amazing, or, you know, if this game turns out to be amazing, it would have had a rough time in October because October... November, September are all crazy packed. Yeah. So good for them on this delay.
I think it'll be better. So
yeah. And then the last thing I'll mention is that that Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl could be interesting, but I don't really have faith in the studio as their Nickelodeon Kart Racers has been kind of whatever. But I'm excited for what this could be. Even if it's bad, because it seems like they announced some cool characters for it. They have at least learned from their Nickelodeon Kart Racers game that, like, hey, you need more than 4 franchises to really pull this off. And there's some, like, deep cuts in the first trailer for Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, which is just a Smash Brothers clone. But there's some pretty cool things in that trailer, so I'm excited.
All right. So what we're planning on watching, I'll go first since you just did a little bit of talking for that. So Owen and I completed Luigi's Mansion 3. Nintendo has this tendency to do this thing where like the last boss fight is always just a pain in the ass. And that was kind of the case with this one. There apparently is some multiplayer components to this, like a almost I feel like a horde mode style thing that I may or may not check out before I send the game back to GameFly. But Owen still wants to, like, when we get to boss fights and we die like 2 or 3 times, he's like, I need to take a break. I'm tired. I'm like, dude, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I know, I'm just tired. And then he goes to the other room and I beat the boss and he comes back out. Can we check out the next floor? And I'm like, dude, stop bailing on the boss. But I mean, overall, like the co-op and the mechanics of the game using the goo Luigi, like the Luigi made out of goo. Like I thought that was a really cool mechanic, and the way it was integrated into the game was good. And like we talked about last week, it wasn't like hold your hand co-op. Like during a boss fight, he was playing. He had to be doing something underground while I was doing something above ground, and what he was doing underground, if he wasn't successful at it, I wasn't able to get to the boss. So now I think that, you know, for the most part, I was still helping him because the game is also built from a single player standpoint, so where you can kind of put your character in one spot and take control of Goo Luigi and move around and do that same thing. You just have to be quick about it so your character, the regular Luigi, doesn't get damaged. But he did pretty well as he was, you know, going through. And I want to play Mario Rabbids because I haven't really ever gone through it. I have it. I bought it initially for Owen, but the new sequel being announced makes me want to play that more. He claims that it's got some kind of 2-player mode to it that him and I need to check out. He's been asking me for the last 3 or 4 days, and I've just been kind of a little tired. Like, hey, I'm still trying to, you know, reacclimate to my biological clock right now. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. I did dabble a little bit in Destiny some more. They did their summer event where it's an armor, you know, like earn the glowy, shiny armor. The event needs to evolve and change and get better. It just didn't feel it didn't feel as grindy this year as it did before. I'm like 90% done on my one character that I pretty much play on right now. And then they did release another a master content for the Vault of Glass with some new weapons and stuff. So I have to actually still be a little bit of a higher power level for that. We'll see if I get there. I don't know if it's going to be worth the effort for the rewards that you get from it, because they're still in that delicate balance where they don't want to reward the high-end marquee players with better high-end marquee stuff and then leave the casual or middle tier players like well, I can't get up there, and you keep giving that guy better stuff, and I can't get to that point. So what's the point of me playing? So they're kind of like in that delicate balance as well. I think they're handling it pretty well. Like, if you want a hard challenge in the game, you have one. You get a reward that's just a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit better than what you could normally get. So, I've been watching more Smallville. Got a little bit into season 4 right now. I think like middle of season 4, where like he's a character returned from like a psych ward, and she's like in a relationship with him. She knows about his powers and stuff. So I guess watching Superman and Lois and watching Smallville in coherence with each other is causing me some issues. Okay. In Smallville, Lois Lane is introduced. Mm-hmm. But in Superman and Lois, where it's supposed to be a continuation of the Smallville universe, they don't meet until he gets to Metropolis.
Do you have that backward? No, I guess he doesn't. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not the Smallville universe. It's just a version of Smallville.
So, but there are a lot of ties in Superman and Lois to events that happened in Smallville, the show. Yeah,
well, I guess because it's all just Superman comics, or are they referencing mostly like the Smallville comics? But yeah, I can see that could be a little confusing.
Yeah, so Lois Lane is in the Smallville TV show right now in this season, and but it is what it is. It's fine. I'm finding it super fascinating learning more about just the more deep stories about Superman, and I think it's really cool. So on both standpoints, and then Angela and I did go see Black Widow over the weekend in the theater. My daughter has no desire to see Marvel movies. My son is not home right now. He's working a summer job, so it only costs us like $14 to go to the theater versus $30 to get it on Plus. And plus, it comes on Disney Plus. It's coming to Disney Plus like in like September.
Yeah, it's
October,
like 2 to 3 months. Yeah, it's like
so she's like, window. My wife's like, I want to go see this in the theater, and then I'll watch it again on TV in September when it comes in.
I rented it, but I haven't had any interest to actually sit down and watch it.
Oh, it's really good. We enjoyed it. Like, again, like I think that there are aspects. There are some people that talk about it a little bit in terms of maybe it was too long. It had taken, not the movie was too long, but it had taken too long to tell her story.
No, and that's my problem. I think I would be more excited if it was in timeline, or if I would be more excited if this actually came out after Civil War, which is where I think it is in the timeline.
Roughly.
Yeah, I would be more excited for it if it was then, as opposed to getting it.
But if you want to learn more about her and how she works and functions, like this movie is great for that. And the introduction of another character, or what I believe to be another character. This is. I'm gonna tread lightly, and if you think I'm going too far, let me know. So the end credit scene. This is the concern that I have. There's an end credit scene that shows a character that has been shown in a Disney Plus series,
which is fine.
Right. However, I'm worried that if you haven't seen the Disney Plus shows, there's a possibility you might look at the end credit scene and be like, who the hell is that?
But I think that's the game they've been playing for like 10 years now, that it just kind of doesn't matter. Like, we saw Thanos like 10 years before we actually really got the...
But people knew who Thanos was. Like, this is a human being that's like an actress playing,
we'll stay away from too many details. But I see that, but I think that's just like Disney knows what they're doing in terms of like that might encourage them to go watch the Disney Plus show and get a subscription to Disney Plus, because they'll be like, who was that? They'll Google it and be like, oh, let me go watch that Disney Plus show. Mm-hmm. I'm probably gonna watch it after we record, since I did rent it.
Okay. But you have it for like 30 days, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I basically just rented it because my little sister and my dad wanted to watch it too. So I was just like, all right, I'll rent it. Here's my account. I'll watch it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's 100% worth going to see or getting it on Disney Plus. Like, I wouldn't have been disappointed like watching it on my couch from home. at all. It did fantastic. Like the numbers that I saw did fantastic at the box office and on Disney Plus. So this proves that it both can work. Like, so please continue this. Like,
please just give us the option, especially for movies that you're not really that interested in. It would be really good to have this option.
So, yeah. So I mean, I'm obviously speaking delicately. You know, but it's good. Like there's good stories, and it's really cool to see dominant female characters lead movies.
Yeah.
So, like,
anything else for you?
That's really all I can think of off the top of my head. So,
my list super light. It's been mostly just experimenting, playing some random games. Just because nothing's really caught my attention. There hasn't been any big new releases since Ratchet, or even like indie games that have come out that like have caught my attention. So I've just been playing my usual go-to games, which is Tony Hawk Pro Skater on the PS5. I've been playing Tetris Effect. I kind of dropped Pokemon Snap, but picked it up again a little bit. Started Psychonauts just because I was like, you know what, I do want to actually play Psychonauts. Talked about it last week. I was debating on what games to play. So started Psychonauts a little bit. I'm a little, like, I'm not super into Psychonauts. The personality is there, but it's an old platforming game, and some of those games just are a little kind of rough trying to play now. And I just got done playing Ratchet and Clank, which is a
stellar
really
platformer.
Modern platformer. So going back to an older platformer is kind of difficult. But I want to see it through just because it's only like an 8 to 11 hour game, and Psychonauts is coming out in August. So I'll continue to play through that. The main source of my entertainment the last week or so has been Mythic Quest. Just finished up season 1. Really enjoying it. That the show, like, so my concern originally was Ubisoft was like heavily partnered in it, and because of that, I was like, oh, they're not going to touch on certain subjects because
no,
they're in partnership with a game company, but they totally touch on a bunch of stuff. And there's been a lot of like episodes where like they actually have really good emotional hooks to the episodes, which is something I was just like, is this going to just be kind of silly? Because especially like the first like 2 or 3 episodes, it's like, oh, everyone's wacky and crazy, and then it is until you get like episode 5 where it's just like a one-off like contained episode. They're like, oh,
that
was
like where they originally made the game, the first game.
Yeah. Like you have that, and it was just one of those things where it's just like me and Sarah are watching. I'm just like, oh, do you want to watch something light like Mythic Quest? And then we that's the episode that we loaded up, and it's just like, shit. I guess we're gonna have to watch another episode just so we get something like more fun or, you know, like laughing. But enjoying Mythic Quest. Gonna probably start season 2 tonight, or I think it's like 11 episodes for season 1 or 12. So probably finish season 1 or start
season 2 gets a little heavier too,
which I'm totally in for. Like I think that's now what I want from that show, is because they can pull it off.
I was gonna say, in terms of something light and funny that you like, since you have Apple TV right now for whatever reason, I don't like Jason Sudeikis. I'm telling you, just promise me you'll watch 2 episodes, so like 45 minutes of your time.
Okay, I can watch 2 episodes before next week.
Okay.
And I'll
remove the soccer equation from it, or football equation from it, before I get scolded.
Soccer and college football and Jason Sudeikis from this movie starring Jason Sudeikis.
I wouldn't consider it to be a sport. I wouldn't consider it to be a sports show.
Okay.
So that's why I say remove soccer from the equation.
Okay.
So, if you don't like the actor, like, I can't do anything about that.
I know, that's my only thing, is like I would give it a shot, but I'm not.
I think he did a phenomenal job. I mean, have you ever had an actor that you don't enjoy where you're like, you know what, that movie's good? Have you been? Okay.
Like once or twice.
Okay.
So there is a possibility that I could.
I can't think of. I guess maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't delve into the television or movie shows like you do. But I don't remember, or I can't think of something off the top of my head that he's in that I've seen, other than Ted Lasso.
Yeah, no, I can name a bunch of different things that he's been in, and I've always been like, I don't know.
But I'm also, like, again, I'm terrible at names and recognition of things, because, like, I found out, like, one of the characters in Black Widow she played in, like, Fighting with My Family. I'm like, really? And I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, that's her.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Yeah. I saw that on some article today, and I was like, huh. I don't connect the dots like that. So
yeah. But that's it for me.
Okay. Curry says you should play Judgment. is what you should play.
I own a shrink wrap copy of Judgment somewhere around here.
All right, so questions and comments using hashtag #AshDigitalDays. You can send us those on Facebook, Twitter, Discord. Again, all those are in the show notes. Matt Lowe, who's one of those people that would criticize me for calling it soccer. In your opinion, what is the best looking item in a food in a video game? Some of my favorites are Resident Evil 2 Remake, Dirty Trucker Burger, Medal of Honor, bread, probably looks terrible now, and the Monster Hunter chef's food. It's all great. That would be mine. Like I like anytime when I would play Monster Hunter, I would actually watch the cooking. Whenever you cook, I'd actually watch that scene because it always looks so cool.
Yeah, I would say number one, kind of cliche, but the cake in Portal looks really good. I want that. There is anything from Monster Hunter, like the Meowster chefs or whatever. Those look amazing. Curry in the chat mentioned sushi and Judgment. That since Judgment is a Yakuza game, all the food in the Yakuza game, that whole franchise, you get pictures. Sometimes you'll see the actual food. All that stuff looks delicious. Awesome. And sometimes I see that stuff and I like Google it to be like, where can I pick something up like that in Chicago? So yeah, like the Yakuza games have, because you have to feed your character. So like there's a ton of good food stuff in that all those games. But yeah, I think the cake in Portal is probably the best looking thing, even though it's just a basic chocolate cake.
Stefan Wren, somebody else that would criticize me, and I'm gonna mess with him a little bit and be like, yeah, England lost. Kidding.
So it didn't come home?
No, it didn't.
Okay. I've all week I've just been seeing people saying it's coming home, and I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about.
So apparently, like the Euro, I don't know enough about it. The Euro Cup wasn't in Europe; it was like somewhere else for a while, and it would have been. However, the stuff that the soccer fans are doing to the England players that missed the penalty kicks, you're terrible people.
Oh, like, no, for sure.
You're terrible people. Saying that those are players that were born in England, and you telling them to go back home is terrible.
Yeah. Sports fans can be terrible.
Yes, they can.
Is what we learn every time something like this happens.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, like all last week, I was just confused because I would just see like English friends just typing, it's coming home, and I was like, what the fuck? Okay, I'll click the hashtag. Oh, it's soccer.
See, Stefan, he called it soccer. I didn't. Michael did.
Footy, or whatever you want to call it.
All right, so Stefan goes, what is the first game that comes to mind when you see a PS1?
Spyro, though I automatically also think of Resident Evil. Those are the first two.
For me, it's Final Fantasy VII, because I'm like, why are there like 4 discs?
Okay. Yeah, I think like immediately when this happened, I thought of Spyro, Resident Evil, and Lost World, Jurassic Park. Or
I'm sorry, I guess the other ones that would be like those demo discs. Like that's what. Yeah. And then the thing that comes to mind every time I see a PS1, when I see a picture of a PS1, I'm like, you got to turn that over to make it work.
What?
You have to flip a PS1 upside down to make it load games for the most part. After a while.
No, I've never had that issue.
You never had to flip your PS1 over to make it load.
No, I took care of mine, I guess.
Oh, I didn't have one. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, my mine still works. It's an ugly color now. It's like.
So you never had to turn your PlayStation over and set it on the top.
No, are you talking about to like, because I know there was a weird thing you could do for region locking by turning it upside down.
So the games wouldn't load, like the disc wouldn't read, and you flip it over and it reads.
Oh, I mean, if that happened, like that happened with my PS2, you just put something on top of it just to keep the tray down. Because that means the sensor that can tell if the tray is open isn't being hit. But no, that wasn't an issue for me.
Hopefully somebody defends me and doesn't like I'm not just crazy.
Yeah,
because that was the funny part about that PlayStation 5 marketing campaign.
Because all of them were been upside down for this.
Yeah, so that's where I was like, all right. So I mean, okay, maybe I never owned a PS1. Or if I did, it was very brief amount of time. But when I would be at my friend's house or something, maybe they didn't take care of their discs or take care of their games. But
yeah, I found mine in my parents' basement recently, like probably 2 months ago. Even though it's been in a box in a basement for like 15 plus years or whatever, that thing has turned into like this weird yellow brown color.
Yeah.
Kind of what you see with the Nintendos.
The plastic's just fading. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think that would. I thought that was like a sun hitting the console for too long, or light hitting the console. So I thought mine would be safe, but nope.
No, it's like it being able to breathe. I guess like technically, like it's not getting enough oxygen. Like I guess, or I that might not be the right term, but it happens to again, like because I sold shoes for so long, it happens to shoes too. Like allowing your shoes to breathe versus that's why you see a lot of collectors like putting them like in a sealed like space bag or something like that, because actually like shoes getting oxygen is bad.
Oh, okay.
So in terms of like longevity,
I was just so sad when I saw that. There's a way to clean it and stuff, but it's a process.
All right. So those are our questions. As always, please send them whenever you think of them. You don't have to wait for us to post that we'd like a question. If you come up with something, just send it in. I've been getting a couple questions in Discord. Hey, are you going to play this? Are you going to play this? Yeah, maybe when I get on a new sleep schedule, I'll try. It might be a great time for me to delve into some single-player stuff because I might only be playing at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you know?
Yeah.
Spotlight is still Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart Spoilercast, so as you're playing through that, or if you completed the game, check it out. Don't listen to it until you completed it. I know some of you don't even have a PS5, so it'll always be there. Like maybe we'll just like re-push it to the feed in like 6 months or something. Like maybe we can mess with that just to remind you it's there. You can follow us on our social media. The main account is at Digital Days Pod. Michael's is at the first MJC. Mine is at Good Dave Hunt. Join the Facebook group. Join the Discord. Links are in the show notes. Check it out. Join the community. Hang out. Patreon.com/Digital Days Gaming. $1 tip jar. $3 private Discord channel access. $5 gets you 24-hour early access to the weekly show. $7 gets you a monthly bonus episode. For the month of June, we did like games of the best 6 months of 2020.
Yeah, game
or
of
2021. Yeah, so of 2021. So there's really nothing great to talk about from 2020. So my apologies for saying that again. So yep, you can check those out. Whenever you decide to do the tiers, if you like, as an example, if you become a $7 Patreon, like awesome, thank you. You get access to like all the previous bonus episodes as well. So it's not a today go forward thing. It's like, hey, awesome, thank you for supporting us. Here's a whole bunch of stuff for you to listen to. So if you're going on a road trip, drop $7. You get some cool stuff. But again, like I always say, like sharing the show, reviewing the show, telling your friends about the show is the best thing to do if you want to show some additional support. Twitch is a great way to do that. Patreon is a great way to do that. But please don't do it if you're not financially able to. I don't want you to feel strapped. And Michael and I are fine. So,
yeah, we're good. We'll still produce weekly content.
Yeah, so we're totally fine. It's just another avenue of support if you so choose. So, all right, that's all I got. You got anything else, Michael?
No, that's it. Hopefully I'll have Psychonauts finished for next week, or hopefully in time for the sequel later this August. But nothing else from me.
All right, so we'll talk to you guys next week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.